Magnate Andrés Montenegro never imagined that simple last-minute decision would completely change his life forever. He was returning earlier than expected from extensive business tour in New York City, and upon opening heavy oak door of his mansion on outskirts of upscale neighborhood, first thing he found wasn't warm family welcome, but most unsettling and disturbing silence he had ever heard in all his years. His older daughter, Clara, barely 6 years old, was sitting on cold floor with torn pink dress that had once been her favorite. She had eyes swollen and red from crying so much, and desperately held her little brother Diego, innocent baby barely 9 months old, in her small, trembling arms. With broken voice filled with terror, little one begged in whisper that cut through silence, "Please don't hurt us again. We'll be good, we promise." That simple phrase froze Andrés' blood in his veins and made his heart stop for a terrible moment. Those words didn't come from stranger lurking in shadows. Wasn't dangerous intruder who had broken into home. Those devastating words came from his own daughter's innocent mouth, and weight of that realization crushed him. What city are you watching this video from, and what time is it? By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, I'd be so happy if you could subscribe to my channel and like this video. Hours before that devastating moment, Andrés had been sitting in his impressive glass office located in very heart of New York financial district, completely surrounded by imported Italian marble, million-dollar contracts spread across mahogany desk, and collection of expensive Swiss watches displayed in glass case. He seemed like completely untouchable man at peak of success. But harsh truth was entirely different from appearances. For many long years, true satisfaction and genuine happiness hadn't visited him even once. He was 47 years old, possessed fortune that kept expanding with each passing month, yet carried enormous void inside that not even all luxury money could buy was able to fill. On his expensive desk rested elegant gold pen, precious gift from wealthy German business partner, and right beside it sat photograph in silver frame that he deliberately avoided looking at whenever possible. Image showed Isabel Duarte, his beloved first wife, wonderful woman who had given him Clara, and who tragically died under completely unexpected circumstances, leaving behind impossible-to-disguise void that haunted him every single day. His packed agenda awaited him as always. Endless meetings with investors, important commitments with board members, endless columns of figures and projections. But that particular night, without any logical explanation or warning, he suddenly changed his planned course entirely. Something heavy weighed on his chest, powerful intuition pushing him with unstoppable force to grab his car keys, take wheel himself and return home immediately without notifying anyone of sudden change in plans. He crossed rain-soaked roads glistening under streetlights, made brief stop at small neighborhood cafe on corner where he ordered simple espresso and barely responded with tired gesture to friendly waiter's warm greeting. Andrés, man completely accustomed to moving millions of dollars with a single word from his voice, had somehow become incapable of sustaining even simplest casual chat with ordinary people. When familiar city towers finally appeared on distant horizon through his car windshield, powerful memory suddenly hit him with force of physical blow. Vivid image of Isabel walking hand in hand with little Clara through bustling downtown square, while he made empty promise to be present tomorrow, spend quality time with them. The tomorrow he kept promising never actually arriving, always postponed for another day. His second wife, Lucía Robles, was supposedly in charge of carefully caring for children back at family estate. He had always firmly believed this was true. Had completely convinced himself she protected them patiently and lovingly, while he fled away to safe refuge of work and business deals. That fateful night upon arriving at property, heavy iron gate opened with loud metallic screech that echoed in darkness. Andrés carefully stopped his black luxury car in stone courtyard, breathed deeply trying to calm nerves, and thought that upon entering through front door, he would immediately see Clara run toward him with her beautiful brown hair flowing in wind, and little Diego babbling happily in her small arms. That warm image moved him far more than expected, stirring emotions he'd buried. He hung expensive coat on rack, left leather briefcase by door, and advanced slowly forward. But house was strangely unnaturally still and quiet. No sound of small running steps, no cheerful voices calling out greeting, nothing of Lucia's usually impeccable welcoming smile. Heavy silence wrapped around him like dark omen warning of something terrible. Then barely perceptible sound made him stop frozen in tracks. Soft sob, muffled and heartbreaking. Then came broken child's voice trembling with fear. Please, don't hurt me and my brother anymore." Andrés completely froze in place, unable to move. He walked slowly toward living room, heart pounding violently in chest like hammer, and finally saw a horrifying scene. Clara trembling uncontrollably on floor with Diego crying inconsolably in her small arms. Standing before them, posing in tight red dress with perfectly intact makeup as if ready for party, was Lucía, woman who should have been protecting them with her life. With shocking coldness in voice, she spat venomous words. "I've told you 1,000 times not to bother me with your crying and whining. If you continue acting like this, I'll throw both of you out on street right now in darkness." Her cruel words pierced through Andrés like sharp blades cutting flesh. He immediately ran forward and positioned his body between helpless children and his wife. His voice came out rough but firm with authority. "Enough! Not another word!" Clara looked up at him, as if she couldn't possibly believe her father was really standing there in flesh. Her little hands desperately clung to torn dress, seeking any refuge from fear. Andrés gently took little Diego, who continued crying pitifully, and gradually innocent baby calmed down, feeling father's protective warmth for first time in weeks. Lucía, upon seeing him standing there, immediately changed her tone completely, forced artificial smile across face, and caressed his expensive jacket sleeve with false affection. "Darling, what wonderful surprise seeing you home early. I was just correcting them bit, teaching discipline. You know how difficult children can be at this age." Her voice became sickeningly honeyed, exactly like sweet honey cunningly hiding deadly poison underneath. Andrés didn't answer her at all. His gaze remained fixed intensely on Clara. It was precisely then, in that moment, he finally noticed purple marks clearly visible on her small wrist, marks leaving absolutely no doubt about their origin. Air in room became completely unbreathable, and Andrés, for very first time in very long while, finally understood with devastating clarity that true secrets of his mansion weren't hidden in business contracts or glass offices downtown, but right inside his own home, under his own roof. Andrés crouched down slowly and carefully, seeking to approach terrified Clara gently without startling her. "Come here, sweetheart. Come to Dad. You're safe now." Little girl hesitated, clearly afraid. Her eyes traveled nervously from Lucía to Andrés, as if desperately needing permission to move even single step. Finally, she took one trembling step forward and carefully rested her small forehead against father's strong arm. Andrés covered her carefully, without exerting too much pressure, painfully conscious that any abrupt gesture could shatter that fragile balance of trust. "Are you very tired, my love?" he asked with trembling voice barely under control. Lucía intervened immediately with perfectly calculated sigh. "Please don't get upset over nothing. I've been completely alone with them for weeks on end. Doctor specifically says they need firm discipline and structure. It's absolutely exhausting, Andrés." He raised gaze and directly faced wife's perfect but tense smile. He desperately wanted to speak truth, but words stuck painfully in throat. Guilt and rage mixed together in tight knot, preventing normal breathing. At that precise instant, kitchen door opened and appeared Mrs. Carmen Vega, loyal housekeeper who had faithfully been in family service for decades. Her white apron and impeccable bun barely moved as she carefully inclined head toward Andrés in silent gesture of warning. Then she disappeared again among shadows, moving like silent angel who understood far too much. Lucía clapped hands softly to break unbearable tension. "Dinner's ready and waiting. I served hot soups. Why don't we all sit down together? That way children can calm down a bit." Andrés, still holding Diego protectively in arms, reluctantly accepted sitting down. Dining room was illuminated by wrought iron lamp. On table steamed vegetable plate and roasted chicken. Lucía positioned herself to his right while Clara remained before him with hunched shoulders and dull, lifeless face. "Eat, sweetheart, so you'll grow strong and healthy," Lucía said with false sweetness, serving her piece of chicken. But upon placing hand on Clara's shoulder, she squeezed far too hard. Clara visibly shuddered and spoon trembled in her hand. Andrés noticed everything. Blood ignited, though he tried desperately to hide reaction. "Has someone hurt you at school today?" he asked with low voice, trembling inside. Girl barely raised gaze with panic-filling eyes. "No, Dad," she whispered almost inaudibly. Lucía laughed softly like someone hiding what doesn't want to face. Children play rough, stumble, fall down. Don't exaggerate everything, Andrés. He remained silent, slowly turning spoon between fingers. He suddenly remembered Isabel's wise words, his first wife. Trust your daughter's eyes when she's afraid. During dinner, Diego cried again. Lucía stood abruptly to take him, but held without any care, causing baby's crying to increase dramatically. Andrés could no longer contain himself. Give him to me right now, he ordered firmly, standing up. For a single instant their gazes crossed, Lucía's cold eyes before Diego's mute plea. With abrupt gesture, she finally handed him over. Andrés held child clumsily at first, but few gentle pats on back sufficed for Diego to calm down completely. Clara watched with astonishment, as if she couldn't possibly believe absent father could really protect them. Dinner passed in heavy silence. Lucía tried conversing about business, investments, and contacts downtown, but Andrés barely responded. Mrs. Carmen came and went with plates, silent. Only once their eyes crossed with Andrés's, and in that gaze was brightness of warning, tacit notice. Upon finishing, Andrés left napkin with measured gesture. His throat burned from everything he wanted to say and didn't. Clara lowered head. Fear in her eyes was impossible to ignore. Later, after putting children to bed, Andrés went up to his study. He walked back and forth, mentally reviewing each gesture, each word, each silence of that night. Echo of Clara's plea hammered his head. Please don't hurt me and my brother. Study was in gloom, interrupted only by tick-tock of wall clock. He turned on table lamp and dropped into leather armchair. Without realizing, his hand brushed forgotten drawer where Isabel kept small notes and Clara's drawings when barely baby. He hesitated few seconds before opening it. Inside found yellowed papers, birthday cards, and intact envelope. His heart stopped upon seeing Isabel's slanted handwriting. If someday I'm not here, take care of Clara and Diego. Don't trust too quickly in anyone, and above all, trust your daughter's eyes when she's afraid. She won't know how to lie. Andrés pressed letter against chest. It was as if Isabel's voice returned resonating in room, tender and firm. His lips murmured weak. I'm sorry. Reviewing drawer, he also found photograph taken at family home during their first dinners together, when everything seemed simpler, safer, fuller of promises. And there, among memories and guilt, Andrés understood something he had ignored too long. Most painful secrets weren't in business or contracts, but right there, before him, in his children's eyes. In photograph, Isabel smiled tenderly, and on her knees rested little Clara, barely few months old. Girl's large eyes, now looking at him with fear each time Lucía raised voice, pierced Andrés like ray of certainty. That girl was flesh of his flesh, living reflection of Isabel. With jump, Andrés stood up, holding photo in one hand and letter in other, walked to window. City slept under fine rain, and in distance church bells marked midnight. He breathed deeply. Had spent months hidden among meetings and business, leaving children in others' hands, while only true thing he had was them. Creak in hallway made him turn. There was Mrs. Carmen Vega, housekeeper, covered with gray shawl, whispering in low voice. Mr. Andrés, there are things you should know. He looked at her fixedly. Carmen lowered gaze few seconds but continued. I've seen how Lucía treats them when you're not here. Sometimes she leaves Clara on porch, even on cold nights, for minimal error. More than once I found both sleeping on storage room floor because their bedroom door was locked. Andrés's stomach contracted. And Diego? He asked with threat of voice. She feeds child with watered milk. He cries from hunger until falling asleep. I tried to intervene, but she threatened to fire me. Andrés closed eyes, resting forehead against window glass. Guilt hit him like raging sea. He remembered Isabel's letter. Trust your daughter's eyes. Everything fit. Carmen took another step with decision. If you need testimony, I'll speak. Children can't continue like this. Andrés nodded, pressing lips. Thank you, Carmen. This time I won't sit idle. She inclined head and withdrew, leaving him alone with weight of decision. Andrés returned to desk, spread photo and letter on table, and dialed number on mobile. Ricardo, he said with firm voice. though inside trembling. "Come tomorrow to estate. I need you to prepare everything. It's time to review family trust and much more." Lawyer's voice responded calmly. "Understood, Andrés. I'll be there at dawn." He hung up and remained long moment looking at photo. Clara, so small, then looked at him from past with same intensity today, asking for protection, affection, and presence. For first time in years, Andrés promised himself he would fulfill. Rain continued hitting windows. He sat again but couldn't concentrate. Closed eyes and Clara's image returned to mind. Girl huddled on floor hugging Diego, fear reflected on face superimposing on Isabel's smile in photograph. He knew couldn't wait longer. That night he barely slept, with letter on desk and photo kept in inner pocket of jacket. When first rays illuminated city rooftops, Andrés got up, washed face with cold water, and descended stairs. Lucia's steps already resonated in kitchen, accompanied by falsely cheerful humming. Andrés stopped on last step and thought, "What I've seen isn't suspicion. It's truth demanding immediate action." Next morning arrived gray and overcast over city. Andrés had barely slept single hour through entire long night. Very first thing in morning, Ricardo Colmenares, his most trusted lawyer and longtime friend, appeared punctually in discreet dark car. Simple, firm handshake between two men sufficed to understand completely that this particular day would mark definitive, before and after in their lives. They carefully reviewed Isabel's heartfelt letter word by word, examined old photographs clearly showing marks on Clara's delicate wrists, and listened intently to Carmen's detailed testimony about everything she had witnessed. Ricardo nodded gravely with serious expression. "With all this evidence, we can definitely request immediate protection order, but Clara's own voice will ultimately be key to everything." Andrés remained completely silent, painfully conscious of heavy fear weighing on his daughter's small shoulders. County Courthouse received him with imposing stone walls seeming even more severe and intimidating in morning light. Judge Elena Marquez presided over courtroom with imposing calm and natural authority. Lucia entered room looking impeccable, soberly dressed in dark suit, with carefully placed handkerchief in hand, and Andrés knew with absolute certainty nothing would ever be same again after today. Clara clung desperately to Andrés's arm, while Diego remained in professional care of social worker, Mrs. Carla Reyes. Courtroom was completely silent, expectant, waiting. Official proceeding began. Ricardo stood with perfect composure and addressed court. "Your Honor, we formally request protection order for these minors. We present compelling evidence of systematic abuse and letter from deceased mother, Isabel Hernandez." Lucia's expensive lawyer replied instantly with rehearsed response. "My client is exemplary stepmother who has devoted herself completely. All these accusations are simple misunderstandings." Judge Elena Marquez slowly turned her gaze toward Mrs. Carmen sitting in back. "Mrs. Vega, can you please come forward and testify?" Carmen entered witness stand with firm step, low but remarkably clear voice carrying through courtroom. "I've personally seen with my own eyes how Lucia repeatedly forced Clara to stay outside on porch, even on bitterly cold nights, for minimal errors. More than once I've found both children sleeping on hard storage room floor, because their bedroom door was deliberately locked from outside. Diego was consistently given watered-down milk. He cried from terrible hunger until falling asleep exhausted. Heavy silence filled entire room. Opposing lawyer tried desperately to discredit her testimony, but Carmen held judge's gaze steadily. "I'm not mistaken, Your Honor. I faithfully served in that household for full 10 years. Judge then asked crucial question. "Can minor child speak?" Andrés leaned protectively toward Clara. "You don't have to do this if you don't want to, my love." "I'm right here with you." Clara hesitated visibly, squeezing her beloved teddy bear tightly, but finally raised her small head with new determination. "I want to speak. Dad." She slowly climbed to witness stand, and her voice, at first barely audible whisper, gradually became clear and surprisingly firm. "She told me many times if I told anything to anyone, she would throw us both out of house onto street, but I don't want to be quiet anymore. I don't want my brother Diego to live with fear like I have." Andrés felt his very soul break into pieces. He covered face with trembling hand while discreet tears ran down cheeks. Lucia's lawyer tried desperately to interrupt, but Judge raised authoritative hand. Enough. Silence! All kept complete silence. Lucía, unable to contain herself any longer, stood abruptly from chair, and her scream thundered through courtroom like lightning. Liar. You're just exactly like your mother, always pretending to be perfect little saint. Lawyer tried frantically to calm her, but Judge Marquez struck heavy gavel 3 times. Order in this court. Mrs. Ruiz, sit down immediately. Lucía dropped heavily into chair, breathing agitatedly, eyes full of impossible-to-hide rancor. Judge asked calmly to continue with remaining evidence. Ricardo stood again with measured, professional voice. Your Honor, I formally request to present final document, letter from Isabel Hernandez written before her death, paper, already worn by passing years, was carefully delivered to Judge's stand. Judge read it in complete silence, stopping at most incisive phrases. Trust your daughter's eyes when she's afraid. She won't know how to lie. Andrés lowered head. Those prophetic words written before Isabel's tragic death were now confirmation of everything he had witnessed in his own home. Lucía's lawyer tried desperately to dismiss letter. With all due respect, Your Honor, this isn't direct proof of anything, just personal note. Judge interrupted firmly. It provides crucial context and clearly reveals biological mother's will and concerns. It will absolutely be taken into account. Ricardo then asked permission to show recent photographs, clear marks on Clara's small arms. Silence became even denser and more oppressive. Lucía tried to recompose herself, nervously drying cheeks with handkerchief. Children fall down, play rough. It's completely normal, she stammered with trembling voice. Judge observed Clara very carefully, who remained standing on witness stand, teddy bear clutched in hand, gaze lowered but decided. Andrés suddenly remembered another photograph he had found years ago in his office. Isabel and Clara smiling together under warm yellow light of restaurant. He stood up, respectfully asked permission, and showed it to entire room. This is proof of what she means to me. She isn't just my daughter legally. She's my daughter by blood. She always was, though I stubbornly insisted on not seeing it. Surprised murmur ran through courtroom. Lucía visibly paled, tried to speak but no words came out. Andrés raised photo and letter together, like joining 2 pieces of long-ignored puzzle. Judge nodded slowly. I understand perfectly. Bond is clear. Ricardo took opportunity to close argument. Your Honor, it's been clearly demonstrated that Mrs. Ruiz not only systematically abused these children, but also deliberately tried to manipulate entire family environment for personal gain. We formally request immediate custody removal and opening of investigation for abuse and fraud. Lucía's lawyer hit table. I strongly protest. There's absolutely no fraud evidence. Ricardo maintained perfect calm. We have multiple witnesses who saw her secretly meeting with one Carlos Herrera to discuss improper family trust transfers. Investigations are already underway. Judge requested silence. Her serene face became severe. This court has heard more than enough. We will issue provisional resolution at end of this session. Andrés looked at Clara. Girl raised gaze barely an instant. It was same gaze Isabel had described in her letter, fragile and true. That crossing of gazes gave him certainty he had been lacking. Lucía, nervous, leaned toward microphone with bitter voice. You know what, Andrés? You never loved me for what I am. You always compared me with her. I accepted raising those children who don't carry my blood. But you never gave me your heart. You want truth? I hate them. I hate them because every single day they remind me of Isabel. Icy silence fell over room. Clara squeezed teddy bear so hard her knuckles turned white. Andrés closed eyes as if those words were final blow. Then he opened them and spoke calmly, looking at his daughter with firmness and love. They'll never live with fear again. Never again. Andrés leaned toward Judge, voice firm and heart beating at 1,000 miles per hour. I can't allow my children to live one more day under that shadow. Elena Marquez nodded, reviewing files with solemnity. Tension in room was palpable, almost tangible, while all held breath. Finally, Judge struck gavel and announced with clear voice, all custody to Mrs. Lucía Ruiz is immediately suspended. Provisional guardianship of Clara and Diego remains in hands of their father, Mr. Andrés Valverde. Collective sigh ran through room. Clara ran toward her father, hugging him forcefully while Diego was delivered into his arms. Andrés held both, tears running down face without shame. Lucía screamed from her seat, but agents escorted her out of room. Her fury faded before justice's firmness. In courthouse hallway, journalists' bright flashes tried desperately to pierce protective circle carefully formed by Andrés, children, and Ricardo. Already back at family estate, Mrs. Carmen opened heavy door, eyes moist with tears of relief. "Thank God," she whispered emotionally, gently caressing Clara's soft cheek. Following days marked completely new beginning for entire family. Andrés stayed permanently in city, personally taking Clara to school every morning, carefully caring for Diego's every need and learning little by little to be truly present father. In beautiful gardens sprouted small vegetable plot with hand-painted sign reading, "Isabel's Garden." There, among growing tomato plants and children's genuine laughter, Clara and Diego gradually recovered lost joy. One quiet night, Clara asked in low voice, "Dad, you won't leave us alone ever again, will you?" Andrés immediately knelt down, looking directly into her eyes. "Never again, my love. I promise." She hugged him forcefully, and in that precious instant, Andrés understood that sacred promise made to Isabel and confirmed by justice was being fulfilled in each smile, in each calm breath of his beloved children. His home was finally at peace. Under vast sky, Andrés understood he had recovered only thing that truly mattered: warmth of united family. There are moments that mark us forever, image of father arriving just in time to hug his children, of little girl who found courage to speak truth, and of home that became real home again after so many dark shadows. These are precious memories inviting us to reflect deeply. Teaching is clear: money, reputation, and power never fill heart. Only true love, courage to ask forgiveness, and firm decision to protect those we love give meaning to our existence. Sincere affection can change destinies. Everyone deserves to be hugged and feel belonging to family. True wealth is measured at shared table, in simple gestures illuminating others' darkness, like lamplit in window guiding lost traveler through night. That was Isabel's invisible inheritance for Andrés. Trust children's eyes, listen to their silences, and provide protection that should never fail. Today, seeing Clara laugh freely and Diego grow strong and healthy, we understand justice fulfilled its role, but it was love's strength that returned peace. This tale reminds us we're always in time to repair, extend hand, and start over. If this story gave you a moment of hope, share it so someone else can find comfort. Journey doesn't end here. Each ending is also new beginning, and next story will find us together, ready to discover new paths of healing.